Hi, there are a few small seats over here if you want to grab a seat. All right, well, thanks for coming to my session. Sounds like a wonderful conference, the first time I'm attending, so thanks to the organizers for putting this together. My name's Glenn Hofmann. I run the data science and AI function at New York Life, and this talk is really a bit about demystifying what a chief analytics officer does and what you should be aware of if you have that ambition or work with people that do that. So I gave a slightly longer version of that talk a couple months ago, and that one was titled, so you really want to be a chief analytics officer? Are you sure? So it's a little bit of that idea. All right, so I'll give you a very brief picture of my career and how I got there, but then we'll dive into what are sort of the core responsibilities of a chief analytics officer, the things you should worry about, or if you're working with a person like that, they should, you should be aware of, and what does it mean to be successful as a chief analytics officer. That's probably the 20 minutes. If you probably won't be able to have time for questions, but if you want to ask me, I'll be sort of right outside after the talk, after my talk, and you can catch up with me if you like. All right, so this is a bit my journey. I started as a statistician. I did a few years as a stats professor, and then dove in the industry. I've been in various industry jobs about 20 years, and lately I've been getting into sort of building data science teams, or AI teams, they like to call them now. So I've been doing this for a while. This is probably the third iteration of me building an AI team. So I think this time I didn't repeat the same mistakes I made before. Probably made some other ones, but I'll tell you a bit about that. So what is it that a chief analytics officer does or maybe should do or needs to do, and versus maybe what's in the job description. So we'll talk about sort of a few key things. There's stakeholder management or business development, which is really about getting projects, designing projects, and executing projects together with business partners. There was a lot of infrastructure. Infrastructure has gotten a little easier with modern technology, but also more complex and more choices and more options on what to do. So, with high compute, or even with not so high compute, to actually deploy models requires a lot of infrastructure and process. We'll talk a bit about governance, definitely a popular topic these days, hopefully among professionals like us, but also in the popular media. So that's probably the one that if you don't pay attention to, it can get you fired as a chief analytics officer. And then, of course, there's building a team and designing a team, and what does a good team look like, and what sort of functions should be in there. All right, so starting with business development or stakeholder management, it's so but you shouldn't assume that as a chief analytics officer you go in and then people will come to you with work. And people will, come to you, I have this great project, can you help me with that? Wouldn't that be nice, right? That almost never happens. So instead, it takes a lot of work, it takes a lot of dedication to make interesting work happen, right? And, if you are a data scientist or an AI professional joining a team, you should look at the leader of that team or the leaders of that team and say, what do they do to provide interesting work for you, right? So it doesn't just come by chance. It takes a lot of effort to do that. So and what is that effort? So there's a lot of meeting and communicating with business partners, and there was really, as an AI leader in a company, you have to deeply understand not just the business of the company, but the specific metrics, vocabulary, lingo that the area within the business that you're trying to support, has. So, if you're talking to sales professionals, and want to help their distribution organization, you better understand the incentive structure of the salespeople, the territories, the various tiers, the promotional events they do for their salespeople and all of that, because that drives their organization. And if you don't understand that, if you're 3 months into the job, they basically won't talk to you, right? Because you don't speak their language and they won't work with you. Or if you're advising the marketing people, you better know all of their, what is their segmentation and who they're trying to address and why are they creating this message and, and so on. So, and that holds for every little area within the business. So in the case of my team, I support the whole business, which includes distribution and marketing and underwriting and product and actuarial and service and all of that. So for each individual area, you have to understand their lingo. And trust me, there's 10 different lingos, each was in the same company, right? So that's pretty key. Know their business, know their pain points, know what they're incentivized on, what drives them, and then have a lot of meetings to sort of, educate them on what you're doing. So, and then, that turns into business development, but you're actually proposing projects and how you can help them in their business. Occasionally, they might pose a question to you, and then you jump on that and you try to help them there. A lot of times it's analytics folks suggesting ideas, to business people because they may not understand all of the possible when it comes to AI. So, if you do that well, then eventually the business partners become advocates for you and your expertise and your function within the company. That comes a little later. All right, so then there was infrastructure, right? To pull off AI well, you need a lot of infrastructure and tools. So there was many tech and or IT conversations that you have to have. I mean, the key there really is to set up an infrastructure, not just to build AI or build models, but to actually deploy them into production, deploy them into the business area, and have them integrated into the business process where they get used, right? That's the long pole in the tent. Building models or building AI solutions, that's not hard. Getting them integrated and getting them used by the business, that's where the key is, and that's where the infrastructure focus really is. And frankly, that's where the cost is of AI. It's not so much about the building. It's about the deploying and incorporating into the business process. That's probably about 80% of the cost is, and it's substantial. Process is really important. I mean, if you have a team of 5 people, you don't need process. If you have a team of 100 people, process is everything, right? Because then people want to have clearly defined roles. You don't want to have people step all over each other. So process becomes key. Governance, I mean, it's on everybody's mind these days, right? There's popular news articles now written about AI governance, and sort of both the industry expectation has gone up and the societal expectation, frankly, has gone up quite a bit. So all of us as AI professionals should keep a close eye on governance because I mean, you don't want to be on the front page of the New York Times with something you did or didn't do that causes issues. But also, we just want to be generally responsible members of society and deploy AI for good, or at least for profit, but not doing any harm, right? So that means, in corporate terms, that means a lot of relationships with legal, with government affairs, with compliance. I have tons of meetings, around that to teach them about AI and how to govern AI and set up processes and so on. All right, so then, in terms of the team, I mean, this is a little bit of what's on my team on the left there. So there is data scientists, or you can call them AI engineers, or whatever your favorite term is, and that's roughly a little over half the team. But in order to make that work, you need a lot more, right? You need operations, you need product managers, you need project managers, you need machine learning operations, which is sort of the intersection between data science and IT, and you need some education people to sort of outreach to the rest of the company. So that's on the design of the team. In terms of talent management, I mean, I have sort of 3 basic principles of what attracts and retains people on the team, right? So one, interesting work, right? So can you generate a variety of interesting work? People will like that. Second, probably more important, relevant work. I mean, the work that people do, is it actually going to be used, by the company to make a difference, for consumers, for customers? If people see that their work is relevant and creates some meaningful, changes, people will stay. And then there's career advancement. So making sure these three things happen and creating the career paths that make those happen, that's key. We have, technical track career paths, we have managerial track career paths, and we have succession planning and management of people's careers, at every stage. All right, so those are sort of the basics. When you go beyond the basics, what does it take to really keep your job long-term as a chief analytics officer? And, I should preface this with the average tenure of a chief analytics officer is about 1.5 years. So I did a little better. I've been at this company for 7 years. We'll see how it goes after that, but it's a little above average. So, so for true success in the role, you have to innovate. You have to constantly innovate, because otherwise, the projects get stale, the work gets boring, talent will leave, and you're not really making an impact in the company. But, you have to innovate within the tolerance of change within the company. That varies a little bit by company, but, I work for a large life insurance company, right? So that's traditionally relatively conservative. So there's a certain tolerance of, how much change you can create before people start to resent you, right? And that's pretty important. So you have to sort of evaluate, what is the tolerance for change within the organization at large, and what's the tolerance within each group that you're trying to do projects in? And you can push the limit a little bit. If you push the limit too much, then you get some political backlash against you, and that's really gonna impact your chance of being successful, right? So innovation is good, but in the corporate context, you have to understand the tolerance and also the capacity, right? Every organization has a certain capacity for change, both in a technical sense, from an IT support perspective, as well as in a cultural sense, from how much people are willing to absorb, right? So usually AI projects do cause change, and as a general rule, as humans, we hate change. So you're already sort of up against a little bit of a hurdle there, and you have to sort of evaluate how much you can push that. So then, the other thing is, productize your models and manage your products. I think that's a key thing, right? So if you think you're in the business of building models, no, that's not going to work, right? There's a lot of analytics groups out there that will build models, and then those models will sit there, and nobody will ever use those models, right? But if your business is building models, that would be great, right? But you're not business of building models. You're in business of creating, financial benefit for the company, right? That's how you and your team get paid. So, so that means financial benefits is not achieved by building models at all. Actually, that's a cost, right? Building models costs money. That's bad. You're in the business of creating real business impact, with the solutions that you build, which means it's not about building models, it's about deploying models, about integrating models, and monitoring how they're doing, in the real world. So that's another word for productizing, basically, your models, right? Which means, having a schedule on upgrades, having monitoring on those models, both on the governance aspects of like data getting in and out and decisions they make, as well as are they still working, and are they creating benefit? So the productizing is really important. And then I guess I said everything on here. All right, so another key thing is education, right? You're all here to learn something about AI, but most of you are probably some kind of AI professional. Guess what? If you leave this building, there is 99.9% of the people that have maybe read a couple of news articles about AI and otherwise know nothing, and what they read is probably wrong. right? So, so you're in the business, we're all in the business of educating the other 99.9% of what AI really is. And it's probably not what they think. It's not magic, I wish it was, but it's not, right? So it does involve a lot of data, and it does involve a lot of cost and effort. And by the way, it doesn't work for everything, right? It works for certain problems really well, and different kinds of AI works for different kinds of problems, and some problems it just doesn't work at all, right? But demystifying the process around building AI, demystifying what's possible, which is probably more than people think, but also what's not possible, which is also more than people think, is really key. And also this sort of is important in a corporate context because it establishes your AI team as a differentiated skill set in the company. And I think that's an important point because there's lots of analytics type people out there, right? There's business analysts, there's BI people, there's, but, if you're building AI or data science or some kind of, statistical model, then that's a different skill set, and not every BI analyst can do that. But that's not necessarily known within the company, right? So if you want to have a core AI function in a company, you have to continuously make the point of how that's a differentiated skill set, and not everybody who walks in with an MBA can actually do that, right? So that kind of education is pretty important, and of course you have to keep up to date on things in your own team as well. Things are changing quick. Another way of saying that is branding, right? So I think, those of you who are business people know all about branding, and those of you who are not should learn a lot more about branding, because branding is everything, right? You can sell sugar water in the casino for, $5 if you have the right branding, right? This is a little different for AI, but not that different, right? So you have to kind of brand the team as having a specific expertise and being able to do specific things within the company. Otherwise, it gets washed out over time with the next reorg in the company. So that means, standardize your decks, put logos, put your team members in the spotlight, have them speak externally and internally, newsletters, websites. We put on AI forums. We have a whole expo where we take over a huge conference room for a day in the company, and so on. So that is really important. No, I lost my ability to manage the presentation. Okay. The last. Okay, coming back. Okay, the last point I wanted to make was diversification. So you've heard of diversification. If you're investing money, you want to have a number of different things that you're investing in. So if anything goes south, you have some other leg to stand on, and it gives you a higher return. The same is true for building an AI team within a company. Try to go into many different areas. For a life insurance company, you would think of underwriting as the key thing. We estimate people's mortality and things like that, and it is a key thing. But there's also sales. That's how the money comes in. There's marketing. There's service. There's product. There's all these different areas that AI can be helpful. And we've sort of diversified the team to have several projects in each of those areas. So I think it makes the team more stable. I think it creates a larger variety of work, which attracts talent and keeps talent. And frankly, it makes life a whole lot more interesting. And that's what we're here for. All right, thank you so much.